Good morning. Our reading from the book of Exodus, chapter 18, verses 13 through 26. The next day, Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, "What are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening?" Moses replied, "Because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions." "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me, and let me give you a word of advice, and may God be with you. You should continue to be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to him. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives. But select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes, but have them bring the major cases to you. Let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. They will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. If you follow this advice, and if God commands you to do so, then you will be able to endure the pressures, and all these people will go home in peace." Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. He chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes. They brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. It is my pleasure this morning to introduce to you Kyler Barr, who will be delivering our message. Kyler will be preaching today and then will be giving what I know will be a great presentation this evening, unpacking the groundbreaking book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. We encourage all of you to attend that if you can make it. Kyler and his wife, Heather, live with their 4 boys in Newtown, Connecticut. Kyler has been working in youth, college, and young adult ministries for over 20 years. Here in New England, Kyler formerly served as pastor of youth and young adults at Walnut Hill Community Church before stepping into a more regional next generation ministry role in 2021. He's a renowned speaker and Christian leader in New England, but perhaps around these parts, he is best known as the grandson of our own Lorraine Jackman. So I encourage you to give Kyler a warm welcome of applause as he begins a word for us today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I think that just having you stand up here and have things read about you is to prove that you can go through a little bit of awkwardness while you're there. But I will echo that the most important thing here is grandson of Lorraine Jackman. So any excuse that I can get to come and hang out with her, I will take. It is good to be back here with you and get to spend a little bit of time here with you again. I love the line in that last song we sang where we declare, "You're here and I know you are moving." I'll tell you, this is an encouraging time to be serving in ministry to the next generation across New England. I think it's an encouraging time to be the church in New England in general because God is here and I know that he's moving. There are some powerful things that God has started to do all across our region, and I'm excited to see where he leads us next. And so as you enter into this series, or have entered into this series on leaving something beautiful behind, I just want to let you know that there's a generation. Oh, the mic came at me. I thought the whole thing was. I want you to know that there's a generation that is grateful for what you are leaving behind. They know that they are standing on the shoulders of people who've come before them in the faith. And what you do and how you care for and encourage each other and those in the generations behind you matters. And so thank you. As we get started today, you can see that slide here on the screen behind me. The next slide is actually the background that I'm using for the whole thing. This is the background that I'll be using tonight as we talk about unpacking the anxious generation, and as we spend some time just kind of looking at this book that's written together and saying, God, what would you have us do with this? What is it that we need to know? How can we respond and care for the mental health crisis that exists in the generation that is rising up now across the region? But it's a slide that we're also going to use the rest of the time today. Because as I look at this slide, I see all of these emojis surrounding this young girl on her phone. And the word I think of is overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed. Look, maybe I'm the only one, but I've felt this way before. I've felt overwhelmed, and I think you have too. If not, I'm sure you know somebody who's felt overwhelmed. You're listening for them today, okay? But I think you've felt overwhelmed too. It's a prevailing state of being in society right now. Hey, how you doing? Oh, busy. So much going on right now. Just a little overwhelmed. It's all over the place. Can I tell you, for me, it's usually not just one thing. For me, it's all of the things. I remember several years ago, where our family had a lot of different things going on. We had just lots of different stress points that existed throughout the year. I'm sure you've also had some years like that in your families. And in the midst of that, I was able to walk through all of the bigger things. All those larger moments, I was kind of ready for those. I knew that I had to focus and walk through those well for the sake of my family, for the sake of those around me, for myself. But the little things, I remember one day I was in my son Cameron's room and I was putting in an air conditioner in the spring. And as I put the air conditioner in, I dropped one of the screws. And I almost threw the air conditioner out the window. It was just that tipping point. It was one more thing. It was a moment where the frustration came to bear from all of the other things. We see this for Moses. He's walked through some big things. He's walked through some majorly stressful moments, but the moment we find him in is a moment where all of these little things are becoming too much. See, we're after the point that Moses has gone to Pharaoh and demanded that he let God's people go. We're after the point that they've left Egypt, that they've been led across the Red Sea by God, that Pharaoh's army has been defeated, and we're during this time that they are in the wilderness. And as they're there, there's a moment that we get a glimpse of in Exodus chapter 18 that's really a practical moment. A lot of the stories we read about in Scripture are these huge, massive moments where something happens, and we tend to compare our lives to those. What I love about this passage is it's a moment that I've seen in my life many times. Maybe not for the exact reasons, but these moments where things get to be too much. Nate just read it for us, but we have this story where Moses is overwhelmed by all of the things that people are bringing to him, all the needs of the people of Israel that he has to speak to, all the things that he's going to God for them about, all the disputes that he's settling. And in the midst of that, he's exhausted. Then he gets a visit from his father-in-law. Don't worry, that's not a more exhausting thing in this moment. The visit from his father-in-law is something that's incredibly helpful because his father-in-law speaks into that moment for him. I love especially what Jethro says in verse 14. He has these two questions that he asks that we'll talk about here in just a minute. But can I tell you that the situation Moses is in is one where he's just doing too much. He's trying to do all the things, and he's past the point of diminishing returns. Can I remind you here that sometimes doing too much is exactly what keeps us from getting anything done? Sometimes doing too much is exactly what keeps us from getting anything done. We spread ourselves in too many directions, or we focus on too many things, and we don't get any of them accomplished. Moses needed someone to come into that moment and help him pause and see that he was doing too much, that he wasn't effective, that what he was doing was unsustainable. And I love that Jethro was able to step into that moment for him. Before we read about it, I want to tell you, I hope that you have people like that in your life. I hope that you have friends who can step in and say, hey, what you're doing, it's not working for you. What you're doing is too much. What you're doing is not helpful. I hope that you have family members who will step in and do that for you. We need friends and family like that. But we get to verse 14, and we see Jethro speak into that moment. And the first question he asks, a place that we can start when we're feeling overwhelmed, is this question: what are you really accomplishing here? What are you really accomplishing here? He looks at all that's happening, at all the busyness surrounding Moses, at all the work he's doing, and he says, what are you really accomplishing here? There are two questions that he's kind of asking in that moment. One is, what's the aim? What are you trying to do? What's the goal? And the second one is, are you actually reaching that goal? Is what you're doing effective? Moses, how's this working out for you? Is this doing what you want it to do? The second question he asks gets a little bit more into the specifics of the situation. He says, why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening? Why are you trying to do this all alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening? See, Moses needed to be reminded the same thing that we need to be reminded in these moments. You are not the only one God can use. I'll give you permission here. Look at your neighbor and say, you are not the only one God can use. Don't worry, they'll say it to you too. You are not the only one God can use. We tend to think this because we get centered around what's happening in our life and the way things are going. I have a friend who is a pastor that I've served with, and his wife, when he gets overwhelmed, and in these moments when he can't figure out exactly what to do, his wife comes up to him and she just does this. Just like this. I'm not sure you get it. Can everybody just do that for 1 minute for me? Show me that you can do this. You can just take your finger around your head. You know what she's telling him in that moment? The world doesn't revolve around you. The world doesn't revolve around you. Everything isn't yours to solve. Every problem isn't yours to hold. In that moment, she's giving him perspective. She's helping him see things a little bit differently and think about things a little bit differently. This is the same thing that we see Jethro doing for Moses in Exodus chapter 18. Let's see how Moses responds. We're going to read verses 15 and 16 together. Moses replied, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me. And I'm the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions. All right, let me read this one more time. Jethro comes, says, Moses, what's going on? What are you really accomplishing here? Why do you do all of this morning till evening while everyone else is standing around? And Moses says, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me. And I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions. They're coming to me. You don't understand, Jethro. They're coming to me. I'm not asking for this. They're coming my direction. Oh, what do you expect me to do? I just have to take care of this. He starts to think it's all about him, and it all relies on him. Look, in Moses' story, we know that his worry at the burning bush is that he's not enough for the task that God has for him, that he's not going to be able to handle all of this. And he's taught over and over again in that process that he may not be enough, but God is, and that God has people around him that he will bring to step into roles that he doesn't have for Moses. And yet he gets to this moment in the wilderness, and he thinks, oh, they're all coming to me. I have to be the one who can handle this. He had gotten focused on just himself in this spot and his ability to do all these things. He was caring for others in a way that was self-focused. We ever seen that? And so we see Jethro's response to this in the next verse. And I love how just straightforward Jethro is here. He says in verse 17, "This is not good. This is not good." Let me read 17 and 18 for you. "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. This is not good." For Moses, the thing that was too much, the burden that was too much to carry, was the leadership expectations and all of the things that people were bringing his way. The weight of all of that was just too much as he tried to care for the people of Israel. For us, it may not be caring for the people of Israel, but there are all sorts of things that can overwhelm us, right? Some are obvious. We get overwhelmed when there are those big stressor moments in life, loss, changes in work or school, things that are financial challenges, sickness, all sorts of things are these obvious moments where we know, oh yeah, I'm probably stressed here. There's probably a lot on my plate. I need to be careful. We're not all the time, but at least we should know that those are moments where we should be careful. Other moments, though, are a lot more subtle. They're almost more dangerous because we don't see them coming all the time. And so as we look at some of those other moments, I want to highlight one of the biggest sources of overwhelm in our world right now. It's the thing that if I were to say, hey, what's the thing that provides the most overwhelm in people's lives, that gives the opportunity for people to become the most overwhelmed of anything else in the world, what is it? Okay. Time out. I might be overstating it. It's probably sin, okay? But if I'm going to pick a different thing, like an object that can happen, it's this one right here. It's this one right here. We carry the whole world, or at least access to the whole world, right in our back pocket. We have it around us all the time, and things are coming at us all the time from our phones if we allow it. If it's not your phone, we still hear more than we've heard before. The news cycle is super fast right now. You turn on the news and you hear about things happening all over the world in 20 minutes, and then they say the same things again. And you get to hear all of them over and over again. We're connected to the world at large, and it can be great. This is a fantastic tool in a lot of ways. I used it just before I came up here to text a group of youth and young adult pastors that I'm connected with across New England and say, hey, can you pray for me? I'm getting up to preach. It can be a great thing. But it's impacting us in ways that I'm not sure that we pause to consider very often. So we're going to take just a moment here and pause to consider some of the ways that this and other ways that our world has sped up for us might be impacting us in this area of overwhelm. The first one we hit a little bit already. This is that we're overwhelmed with information. We're overwhelmed with information. Man, I know this can happen at any point, and I'm sure most of you have never seen this in your life. If you had, you would have warned me it was coming. But I hit a point a couple years ago where it felt like my brain just got full of info, and now I have to get rid of things. I know that's not how it works, but it feels that way sometimes, right? That we're just full up, and that we have so much information that we don't know what to do with it. One of the things I'll say to people as I'm in these coaching relationships with churches and pastors across New England, and we're looking at how we can care for people well right now. One of the things I'll say to people is, I don't know anyone in our world who is starving for a lack of information. They might have things that they need to know, right? But they're not starving because they don't have access to information. The people I know, and I'm sure the people you know, are drowning in all the information that comes at them all the time. And so we have to make sure that we're solving the right problem. We need to have time to faithfully process all the information that's coming at us together. If not, we'll end up in this area that's called cognitive overload. The danger of being overwhelmed with information is cognitive overload. You have too much to process at one time. Excuse me. Think of it as a reduced working memory. You've got your long-term memory and your short-term memory, but you've also got working memory that you use throughout the day to do all the different things that you do. It's almost like a computer that has filled its RAM. It might have room in the hard drive, but it can't access it because there's too much going on in that working memory. You can't really access the things that you wish you could access because all the things you're trying to do at once are overwhelming. It's cognitive overload. You know there's a problem when we start to name these things, right? And it's not just raw information that's coming at us. The particular things that are coming at us can be overwhelming too, because we can get overwhelmed with worry. We can get overwhelmed with worry. I already mentioned, we hear about the problems on the other side of the world as they come to our phone or it's in our news or as we're talking to people who've been able to travel there, right, because travel has improved. We hear about problems on the other side of the world sometimes faster than we used to hear about problems on the other side of the Cape Cod Canal. Information travels so quickly that when there's a difficulty, you hold that. And we're supposed to care and have a way that weighs on us when we're looking at the needs of others and the hurt of others. That is good. But when we hit too much, we enter into something we call compassion fatigue. They find that people who are caregivers, who are, whether they're counselors or pastors or teachers or just family members that are caring for others, get to a spot where they have compassion fatigue. They're in a state of all the time having this worry and care for others where you're trying to make sure that everything's okay, and you wear that heavily, and what happens is you end up stressed and exhausted and having trouble yourself because you're holding more worries than you were designed to handle. It doesn't mean that we can't walk through hard seasons. Of course God walks us through hard seasons. It means that when we try to walk through everyone's hard season, it becomes difficult. Another thing that can overwhelm us as everything comes at us are distractions. We get overwhelmed with distractions. Look, even as I was preparing this talk about how we can get overwhelmed, I'm working on my computer, and look, this would really stress some of you out, but I'm someone who keeps tabs open on my computer. And I have all sorts of tabs open on my computer. One of the things that can benefit me there is I don't forget them. One of the challenges is I don't forget them. They're there all the time, and they distract me, and I'm getting drawn into other things. Whether that's, I'm car shopping right now. Oh, did another car get listed? Let me check the site. Let me see how that is. Or it's another project I'm working on that I need to check out, or that email or message that comes in, or, look, don't take this one away, but the fantasy football notification that comes in right now, right? There are distractions that can come in just by glancing up at the tab that's in front of us. We'll talk about this more tonight as we dive into the anxious generation, but these distractions are difficult because many of them are designed to keep and hold our attention. They get our attention, and the dopamine hits that come with them keep us in a cycle of wanting more. And that leads to a problem that we can get more specific about this evening, but broadly we'll call opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Because there are so many things that when we give into distractions and say yes to something, even a good thing, we're saying no to something else, right? And so no matter what it is that we are distracted by, at times we find spaces where it's not something that we wish we were distracted by, that we would prioritize, that we would spend our time on if we were thinking longer term. We get overwhelmed by distractions and we have to deal with opportunity cost. The last one that I'm going to mention is something that is very good. All of these can be good. They just can be problematic when they get out of place and overwhelming. The last one that I'm going to mention is that we can get overwhelmed with social relationships. Overwhelmed with social relationships. Those connections that we value and try to make can become overwhelming. In fact, as we become more and more connected, we're finding that it's not actually helping us feel less lonely. It's that idea of being alone in a crowded room, right? We still have this loneliness epidemic going on in the world around us. They did a study at a university in California. It was Stanford, and I believe, and they did a study on loneliness. They've been doing since the 1970s. And for most of the time, the loneliest generation was the oldest generation. Because things are changing. There's a mobility decrease that leads to loneliness. There's loss of friends and family members. And often it makes sense that the oldest generation, that can be a challenge. And that's something that we've seen consistently since the 70s until 2019. In 2019, it switched, and the loneliest generation were young adults. The loneliest generation were young adults. It's like being alone in that crowded room. So many connections, but our social relationships aren't doing what we want them to do. See, relationships are good, but we can't manage them all. There was an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar who came up with a number that he claims, as he looks at kind of the data that he sees, that he claims is the number of social relationships that we can maintain well. It's called Dunbar's number, very creative naming. And he says that about 150 is the number of social relationships that we can maintain. It obviously goes up and down for different people. And whether that's the exact number or not, I can't say. But what I do know is that we have more than we can handle, especially as we connect to people in so many different places. We can travel more and stay connected. Our communication has gotten better. And then when you throw in Facebook friends or people that you just get email updates from, you run into all these spaces where you're just overwhelmed by the sheer number of relationships. And even if some of those aren't close social relationships, they're just acquaintances, they take relational capital. They take relational space from you. And we become overwhelmed. We have what we call social overload. Social overload. We've gotten to a place where we need to have names for each of these. Now look, all of these challenges are growing in our world. All of these challenges are growing in our world. And they can leave us overwhelmed and leave us anxious. I want you to look at someone beside you and say, "This is not good." There we go. This is not good. As we run into all of these different challenges, it's not a sustainable situation for us. We're not accomplishing the things in life that we want to accomplish. And so we need to learn from this story of Moses and stories like it that we see, examples like it that we see, and say, okay, what do we do? What do we do about it if this is not good? In the story of Moses and Jethro, Jethro gives a plan based on the two questions that we see in verse 14. That first question, what are you really accomplishing here? What are you really accomplishing here? The plan that Jethro gives is he says, okay, we'll paraphrase it. You can read it all again later to check me. But he says, okay, look, what you're going to do You have too many things going on. You're going to divide the people into groups, and you're going to put people in charge, trusted leaders, in charge of the different groups. And you'll still go to God on behalf of the people and be their representative. You'll still teach the people what God has for them. And when a big problem arises, they'll bring it to you. But we're going to delegate some of this. It's going to go to other people. And that's how we're going to be able to manage some of these things. Moses had to realize that it wasn't all about him. There were other people that God could use in these moments, because in light of his aim, there were only certain things he needed to carry. The others he had to let go. What are you really accomplishing here? Now, letting go of things is easier said than done. I know that, right? I've delegated things to people, a confession time here. I've delegated things to people, and then they don't seem to be going the way I want to, and I take them right back. Anybody with me? I've done this, and it's harder than we want it to be to let things go. I think that's why it's addressed often in Scripture, that we have things that we try to hold on to that we shouldn't be holding on to. I want to read 3 spots in the New Testament where we hear this together. I'm not going to flip to each of them in my Bible, but they will be on the screen behind you. The first one is Matthew 11:28. It says, "Then Jesus said, 'Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest.'" Philippians 4:6-7. "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus." Quick pause. That one doesn't say what I wish it said or what I think it should say. I think it should say, "Then God will deal with the problem." It doesn't. It says He'll give peace. That must be better than what I would think. And then the last one, 1 Peter 5:7. "Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you." These are familiar verses. You've probably heard them before. It's because they're verses we need to hear over and over again. They're reminders that we constantly need, that we try to hold on to things, and we need to release them to God, because they're not things that we're in control of anyway. We need to say, "God, I can't do all this. This isn't something that is in my capacity to handle. I'm going to trust you." But I want you to be careful here, because that doesn't mean we become passive. That doesn't mean, "God, I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to just go over here and sit for a while and do my thing and not worry about anything else." That's not what we see. What we see instead is this invitation to step into the active faith that God has for us. See, none of these verses that we just read are the end of the book or the end of the letter or even the end of the paragraph. There are things that come right after them. Right after Matthew 11:28, where we said, "Then Jesus said, 'Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest.'" That sounds beautiful, but there's another part where he says, "Take my yoke upon you." And he says that he has a burden for us, but that the burden he has for us is light. There is a burden. Right after Philippians 4:6-7, Paul tells us to think about what is true and honorable and pure, and to keep putting into practice everything we've learned. There's an active faith that we're called to step into. Right after 1 Peter 5:7, we read things like, "Stay alert and stand firm." There is not this opportunity to just let God have it and then just kind of forget about it. We're letting God have it, and then we're saying, "God, what do you want me to do? What is it that you have for me?" God invites us to lay our burdens down and to pick up what He has for us. God invites us to give everyone and everything to Him, and then say, "But God, what role do you have for me today? What do you need me to boldly step into as I live for you? What are you inviting me into as I actively live out my faith?" I need reminders of these things, and sometimes physical things can help me, right? And so you can do this along with me if you like. You don't need to, but sometimes I need a physical example to help me remember. And when I'm trying to remember this, I will clench my fists together and hold them as tightly as I can. Like to the point where my fists are starting to get a little tired for them. And it's just really a physical involvement in a prayer to God, because then I'll pray something like, God, I give all of this to you, and I'll release it. And I'll feel that release that you have in your hands when you let them go. And then I'll keep my hands open, and I'll say, God, help me know what you have for me. God, help me know what you have for me. It's not a formula. It's a useful reminder to me. It's a physical thing to help me remember the truth in the world. God, I give everything to you. Help me know what you have for me. When I'm overwhelmed by the work to be done, what role do you have for me? When I'm overwhelmed by distraction, where do and don't you want me to place my focus? When I'm overwhelmed by social overload, which relationships do you have for me today, this week, this month? When I'm overwhelmed by cognitive overload, what do you want me to know right now in this moment, God? And when I'm overwhelmed by compassion fatigue, for whom do you want me to care today? Where do you want me to step out and care for others in your name today, God? God, I give all of this to you. Help me know what you have for me. You see, God has something for you. But you have to stop holding on to everything so tightly so that you're ready to pick up the right things. So that you're ready to hold the things he has for you. Because so often we can clench to things so tightly that we think we should do. And it can become an obstacle to stepping into the things that God has for us to do. And so we need to release all the burdens we tried to hold ourselves and say, God, what do you have for me today? What role would you have me play? Now, at the same time, there was a second question that we need to remember. It was, why are you trying to do all of this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening? See, that's the second thing that helps me here. It's not that it doesn't just revolve around me. It's that God actually wants to use other people too. When I hold on to everything, I'm actually robbing other people of the role God has for them and the community of their contribution, right? Because I'm trying to do it all. And so as we look at this, God has something else for us to do, because remember, you are not the only one God can use. We see this in many examples where we have this image of the body for the church. But I'll read it from Romans 12, chapter 12, verse 4 through the beginning of verse 6. It says, just as our bodies have many parts, and each part has a special function, so it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In his grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. You see, sometimes God uses others to do the things that I've been holding on to. He has certain things that I've been holding on to that their gifts match better. Or there are just other people who are gifted in the same areas, and God has different roles for them to play in those moments. It's not all about me and what I can do. That's what Moses is facing here. He needs to delegate some of this work so that the rest of the people can be involved and so that he can focus on the most important things God has for him. Can I tell you, I also run into times in life where what I need is for other people to give me the support I need. That sounds a little selfish, I get it, right? You exist to give me the support I need. No, we exist to give each other the support we need as we worship God together, right? And so as we do this, we are here to care for each other well. We see in Ecclesiastes, this book where we read about all these different things we chase after in life that are like a meaningless vapor. And in the midst of all these things that are meaningless, we read about something that is positive, something that is used for our good and the support we need. In verse 9 of chapter 4, we read, 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. We need each other. We aren't meant to do this alone, and it doesn't all center on us. In both cases, we have to remember that we can't tackle overwhelm alone. We are better together. Look, as we wrap up, there's one more thing that we need to remember from this passage in Exodus. If you have your Bibles, you can flip back to Exodus chapter 18, and we're going to look at one more verse together here, verse 24. And as we look at this interaction between Jethro and Moses, it's one of the most important things that we need to remember if we're going to leave something beautiful behind. After Jethro and Moses have had this exchange, this is what we read about Moses in verse 24. It says, Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. We have to actually put things into place. We have to actually do things. This seems easy, right? It seems simple, but it's often the hardest part. It's certainly the part that I struggle with the most. Whether it's delegating like Moses needed to do, or navigating our own overwhelm, or working together to help make the world better for this anxious generation and all the generations that are to follow, it's not enough to just figure out what we could do differently. We have to actually do something differently. It's not enough to listen to a podcast about how we could do something different. We actually have to take that and apply it. It's not enough to listen to our friend who's giving us advice. We have to actually do that and apply it. It's not enough to listen to a sermon. We have to actually take that and apply it. We have to actually do something differently, not just come up with a better plan. And so in closing, my prayer for you is this. Would you do things differently this week? God, would you help us to step into the things that you have for us, and only those things, with a bold faith? It's my prayer for myself. It's my prayer for my boys and for my wife. It's my prayer for each of us. God, would you give us peace in an overwhelming world as we follow you and place our trust in you, no matter what comes. Amen.